There's a massive debate raging over Vande Mataram and whether Vande Mataram is Sabka's song, to put it in a different way. This debate was sparked in the city of Meerut, known in the annals of history for the 1857 rebellion against the British. It was here where Dilli Chalo slogan was born. It was here when Muslims and Hindus together sacrificed for the nation. But in 2017 India, the mayor of Meerut has raised a very, very shocking and divisive demand. He has called upon all corporators, irrespective of whether they are Hindus or Muslims, to compulsorily sing the Vande Mataram song. If they didn't, he asked them actually to quit the country, quit India. Now, it's a patriotism test that has been set for Muslim corporators, because Muslims are ambivalent about singing Vande Mataram. And you can judge for yourself the consternation that followed. Here is an excerpt of what actually happened on the floor of the corporation in Meerut. Well, you saw those scenes, and you saw the manner in which some of these corporators are asking their Muslim colleagues to chant the Vande Mataram or quit India. Reactions to that story have been multiplying all through the day. Asaduddin Owaisi, the first off the block, and he was scathing. Let's listen in.
It is unfortunate that in Meerut, which was the epicenter of 1857 War of Independence, wherein Hindus and Muslims fought for India's independence, even before anyone was there. And now you say from that place that if you want to live in India, you have to say this slogan. It is disrespect, and it is a cardinal sin which is being committed by such people who are saying this, that you have to say this. I mean, at least please remember the history of 1857 and that place of Meerut.
It's not mandatory for you to sing it, but you have to stand to attention. And let me tell you, in the Constituent Assembly, the first four stanza of the Vande Mataram was declared by the President of the Constituent Assembly, Dr Rajendra Prasad, that it is an alternative national anthem. So therefore, it has the status of national anthem. It can be alternatively sung, and first four stanza, because the other stanzas there's Durga and things like that. So they chose the four stanzas. They are purely secular stanzas, and if they don't want to sing it, no problem, but they must stand to attention. A lot of people say a lot of slogans, but ultimately the law is what matters, no? Nobody can force anybody to leave or stay.
सरकार का क्या मानना है, क्या पक्ष है कि वंदे मातरम को लेकर क्या कंपल्सरी किया जाना चाहिए या फिर लोगों के ऊपर छोड़ देना चाहिए, ऑप्शनल रहे?
देखिए, इस मामले में सरकार से कोई मतलब नहीं है। वहाँ क्या मामला हुआ क्या नहीं मैंने नहीं देखा है, और जब तक मैं देखूँ ना उस पर मैं कोई बात करना नहीं चाहता, क्योंकि मेरे सामने नहीं गुजरी है ये बात, तो इस पर हमारा कोई पक्ष नहीं।
लेकिन वंदे मातरम को लेकर सरकार क्या मानती है?
सरकार का इसमें कोई, देखिए, सरकार की कोई वो नहीं है। सरकार सबका साथ सबका विकास चाहती है। सरकार सिर्फ विकास और विकास और विकास चाहती है। बाकी वो जो आप सवाल कर रहे हैं, वो सवाल का मेरे पास कोई जवाब नहीं है, उस पर मैं कुछ नहीं बोलना चाहता, क्योंकि सरकार काम करने के लिए आई है। जनहित की सरकार है, वो जनता का काम करने के लिए आई है और जनहित पे काम कर रही है सरकार। हमने मूलभूत परेशानियों पर सरकार काम कर रही है, और हमारी जो प्राथमिकताएं हैं संकल्प पत्र की।
Okay, you've heard a number of opinions. Let's go out to our guest joining us, Dr Sudhanshu Trivedi this evening from the Bharatiya Janata Party, Yogendra Yadav, founder of Swaraj Abhiyan, also with us Dr John Dayal, human rights activist. We're expecting Dr. Ghanshyam Tiwari of the Samajwadi Party to be with us in a few moments. I want to begin straight off with you, Dr. Sudhanshu Trivedi. Should Yogi's team be turning singing Vande Mataram into a test of patriotism? Why is Yogi Adityanath's team, Corporators from the Bharatiya Janata Party, sir, making this compulsory? The Supreme Court has refused to make this compulsory or wade into this demand. Why are Corporators saying that if you don't sing it, go to Pakistan or quit India?
I think this statement that Yogi government is trying to make it compulsory is not appropriate. As you know that every session of parliament starts with Vande Mataram. And was there any point of time when Vande Mataram was issue of religious angle? You remember when Vande Mataram was sung in the first AICC session? It was in 1896 Calcutta session, which was chaired by Rahmatullah Ahmad Sayani. He was having no problem. Which was the biggest freedom movement started for the first time, which was against the division of Bengal in 1905, when both Hindu and Muslim joined together and fought
in
the
October
Britishers to come back.
1937, the Congress Working Committee that met in Kolkata also recognized and appreciated the validity. No, since you raised the Congress working session, I'm also talking about it, sir. We are going back in time. October 1937, the committee recognized the validity of the objection raised by Muslims to certain parts of the song. Now we know that there are certain parts of the song that could, in fact,
now I'm coming to that point.
Minority sensibilities. Okay.
Now I'm coming to that point.
Okay.
Against the division of Bengal, both Hindus and Muslims sung together Vande Mataram. But the problem started in 1923 when Muhammad Ali Jinnah has said that he is opposed to singing of Vande Mataram. And subsequently, which you are quoting, that in 1937 Congress accepted. But, my friend, in 1947, on the night of 14th and 15th of August, the first meeting of Constituent Assembly started with Vande Mataram sung by Sarojini Naidu.
Okay.
So those who have decided to be the part of Indian nation and to depart from the Jinnah's ideology, they have followed and they have accepted the birth of this nation by singing Vande Mataram. Then where is the problem? And still if today somebody wants to raise the objection, it means they want to go back to time on the same objection raised in 1923. So you want to connect to the same ideology which was divisive. So those who are supporting are not divisive. Those who are opposing are somehow knowingly or unknowingly connecting to the divisive
promoting a
ideology.
two-nation theory which was rejected by a majority of Muslims on the subcontinent. That's the contention. Okay, Professor Yadav, where do you stand on this?
Rahul, actually I was in two minds whether to appear on this show or not, and the reason was simply this, that I think the more we discuss some of these idiotic things, the more publicity we give to it. And to my mind, if all the television channels of this country were to simply make a rule, that is to say, whenever Mr. Akbaruddin Owaisi or Jaki Nayak or Praveen Togadia or now Mr. Ahluwalia or any one of them tries to say something like this with an intent to provoke, with an intent to get cheap publicity, just do not report it. Their business model will collapse because their business model is based on free publicity given by television channels. Actually, there is no controversy here, and if television channels were not to publicize it, this would be a non-issue. For once, I agree with parts of what the BJP spokesperson has said, and he is right in one respect, which is Vande Mataram has been a very strong symbolic representation of our nationalism. Yes, there were debates, there were controversies, and all that was finally laid to rest by the Constituent Assembly of this country, which said we would take only the first two verses and not the rest of the song. And it is our national song today. So there should be no controversy about singing this song. There can be, should be controversy about making anything compulsory. And anyone who tells me that I have to praise my own mother, the mother that gave birth to me, otherwise I have to leave this country, I'm sorry, I'll stand up and say, this you can't do. You can't ask me to praise the mother that gave birth to me on gunpoint. That's not done. This is not on. Who are you to tell me what I should do in order to stay in this country? How can anyone dictate it? Muslims are not tenants in this country, and Hindus are not landlords of this country. We have to give up this mentality.
Hindus
and the
are
best
not
thing
landlords.
Therefore would be to just shut up these controversies and go on to something. Yes, and Muslims are not tenants of this country.
You talked about the first two stanzas. Now I want to just quote out of what A. Faizur Rahman had written a few years ago. Now he is a peace activist and executive committee member of Harmony in India, based out of Chennai. And he said that the first two stanzas cannot be seen in isolation by detaching them from the main song, particularly when the motherland referred to in those stanzas has been clearly identified as Durga and Lakshmi in fourth stanzas. Professor. In other words, the salutations offered to Mother India by singing the first two stanzas would in fact amount to paying obeisance to Hindu goddesses. This is what Muslims are objecting to. So there is, even when it comes to the first two stanzas, a level of ambivalence.
To my mind,
Professor.
Rahul, I know this has been a long debate, very complex debate, but I really would plead with everyone today. Honestly, this question was addressed 70 years ago by people who were far more intelligent than most of us are, especially in television studios, by people who were far more sensitive to the communal question than all of us are, who had seen what communalism could do this country, and whose commitments to secularism was much deeper than in the case of many of us. If they agreed that the first two verses can be retained, let us now move ahead. These things are settled things of this country. So I would say, with all respect, Vande Mataram is a great thing, Bharat Mata Ki Jai is a great thing. There is nothing anti-Islamic about these things.
John Dayal.
Yes, there were some references in Vande Mataram which were controversial. That has been settled. Now let us move on, and honestly, let us, all this
Professor,
to my mind
Professor
has
said
nothing
it's settled,
to do
let's
with
move
Vande
on, but
Mataram.
obviously
it has
it's not
nothing to do
settled
with
in the
culture.
minds of
it
the
is a
corporators
political
in
controversy deliberately generated right now.
No, well, sir, I don't know about that. Look, now, you can say that individuals in Uttar Pradesh, in the Bharatiya Janata Party, are deliberately trying to stir the communal pot. You could easily make that claim. But there are others who will look upon that from a charitable perspective. So I just want to first bring in also Dr. John Dayal. Dr. John Dayal, go ahead with your views.
Sir, I want to make 4 quick points. Let me tell Professor Yadav, I am opposed to anybody, including me, telling the media what to do, what not to do. You are free to cover idiots. You are free to cover brilliant people. That's your freedom. Let me not encroach on it. 2, let me also recall history. I mean, everybody is here recalling history. Let me recall the history of Jana Gana Mana and remember myself and recall it for you that there was a political group that was opposed to Jana Gana Mana also.
Yeah.
They thought it was a tribute to the King Emperor, and I won't remind you which that particular group was.
Well, no, name it, because everyone should know. Since you're going back into history, are you referring to the RSS because there's a tribute to the Adhinayak? We understand what you're saying. So, no, I would like you to, sir. I would like you to, because it is important in the context of this debate. Don't shy away.
I would say that the Sangha Parivar has been most focused on Vande Mataram and was not keen on Jana Gana Mana. And they're the two parities. Otherwise, which country has 2 songs? There are these 2 songs in a historical context. And as Professor Yadav said, let's keep it settled. The expurgated Vande Mataram is neutral. It's expurgated. Unless you Google with mischief, nobody would know what the rest of the stanzas are. And unless you continuously harp in the context in which Jana Gana Mana was written, nobody knows. Just now, the child born 10 years ago knows only the first 2 stanzas. Let him be. However, I would vehemently oppose compulsion in anything. I'm in the Supreme Court together with many others saying yoga is a very good thing, but don't impose it. All good things cannot be imposed. Vegetarianism, I'm sure, is wonderful, but don't impose it on me. I am opposed to state imposition. And finally, sir,
well, then you would oppose the Supreme Court's decision to also make standing up to the national anthem compulsory. Then you would also have a problem with that.
I quite intend to go back to the Supreme Court and request a larger bench
Okay.
to remove this.
Is there a political compulsion behind the Singh compulsorily Vande Mataram diktat that was issued by Team Yogi in Meerut? That's the fundamental question we are asking, and it's going straight out to Sudhanshu Trivedi of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mr. Trivedi, your response. What is the compulsion?
There are certain things which are having some decorum and certain protocols. Yes, of course, certain things should not be imposed, but those who are saying that we will not do it, they are also trying to create an unnecessary, what Yogendra Yadav ji has said, in my opinion, they are trying to create an idiotic
But
logic.
you don't tell them, sir,
If you are
to
having
go to,
some problem,
to quit India.
I accept, okay, you are having
You don't say that we are going to cut off your hands.
Let me complete the sentence.
No, but sir, no, 1 minute. This is a problem
let
here.
me complete the sentence.
And
If
no
you are
one-
having
the
some...
difference between big
No, nobody
and
is having right to say cut off your hand, but this is also true. The same logic applies when it comes to national anthem. I would like to remind, there were certain children from some missionary school in Kerala 15-20 years back. They have gone to Supreme Court that they should be allowed not to sing the national anthem because of some of their religious reason, but the Supreme Court has not allowed. So there is not going to be any limit of this. And one more thing, if somebody is having any problem on religious grounds, तो मैं ये भी कहना चाहता हूँ, भाई music भी तो Islam में कुफर है, then you should ban from Mohammed Rafi to A.R. Rahman. Then the acting is also against anti-Islamic. Then you ban the Khan brothers. And so many things are anti-Islamic, but you are just picking and choosing those things which are having a political connotation. It shows there is a nefarious design opposing, not a rational thought behind opposing anything.
Okay, nefarious design.
You have just committed contempt of the Supreme Court. You have misquoted the Supreme Court. They will stand up in respect, but they will not sing. That is what the Jehovah's Witnesses said. And here, if you are showing respect for Vande Mataram, you don't have to sing it. Most people should not sing it. They sing it so terribly. They sing the Bangla
Now you
badly,
yourself has seen, then the next limit will be that in national anthem somebody can only stand up, not sing.
Because
there will be no limit for this.
More than enough. More than enough. My daughter-in-law sings Vande Mataram beautifully in Bangla and Hindi. She can. I can't. I stand up and I salute. That's enough. Showing of respect is enough. And you cannot ask me to go to Pakistan or England or New York or wherever.
I will break the hands and legs of those who hesitate in saying Vande Mataram.
I just ask one question. Is there any country in which you can say that on national anthem you will just only stand up and you will not sing?
All countries of the world. All countries of the world.
This discussion is only here in
all
this country.
countries of the world. Every country in the world, you just have to stand with your hand on your heart.
Okay.
That's enough. That's enough.
Professor Yadav, I want to come out to you because, you know, we need to really explore the motivations behind this sort of passion for patriotism. First of all, do you think that there is...
aggressive passion.
No, 1 second. Do you think there is some motive behind this diktat to make things compulsory? And can we then attach, by that example, motives to the Supreme Court also, which many people have accused of trying to foist patriotism down people's throats?
Number one, I don't think there is any... all this has anything to do with patriotism or patriotic urge. Patriotic urge is something deep, very nice. What we are witnessing is something altogether different. I don't know if there is a grand design of the UP government. I would not know. I would begin by suspecting that it has to do with something very, very simple. You know, it's called the 15 seconds of fame syndrome. You do something strange, outrageous, the whole country notices
surely,
you.
Professor Yadav, the grandees of the Supreme Court were not looking for 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
Surely the grandees of the Supreme Court were not looking, sir, for 15 minutes of fame. When they said to instill patriotism, we need to make everyone stand up in cinema halls and sing the national anthem, or do it in schools on a daily basis.
I would risk
I was speaking of the Meerut thing, which was, to my mind, clearly intended to be a provocation to create a situation where there would be counter reaction and it would polarize. So this was actually meant only to polarize. About the compulsion in general, I would make only 2 or 3 points. Number one, as I've said again, Vande Mataram is our accepted national symbol, should be respected, can't possibly debate it. But any attempt to force will raise a question. Number one, who is asking me to offer my evidence? What right does that person? Supreme Court is a different matter altogether.
No, why is it a different matter, sir? To be purely pedantic.
What right does
No, I challenge you there. I'm saying that
I'll
to be purely pedantic.
I will address that.
Just because the Supreme Court has the weight of, considered opinion behind it, doesn't mean that it is slightly off the mark when it says that the one way of instilling patriotism in the minds and hearts of the people is to make them stand in the middle of a movie or just before a movie and cross their hands and sing the national anthem. Sir, you know better that the force of law cannot always be a justification.
Allow me to say most respectfully, yeah. Absolutely. They may have the constitutional authority, but in my opinion, this is not a very wise decision. Any attempt to instill any kind of emotion through any kind of force is counterproductive. I would like to touch my father's feet, but if someone said, touch his feet or else, then I would get up and say, I shall not. Who are you to ask me to do so?
So if it's on the back, so if it's on the back of compulsion, then
I will not cannot be. It amounts to disrespect.
It amounts to disrespect.
Number one, what is wrong is the compulsion part of it. Can I just add one more thing? Can I just add one more thing? Apart from compulsion being wrong, unjustified and counterproductive, it also gives a very poor image of our country to the world.
Okay.
Because any country who is trying to force its citizens to adopt some of the symbols of patriotism or whatever, comes out looking so weak in the eyes of the rest of the world. There must be something wrong with you. Why
so the weakness of strong states is what Professor Yadav is referring to. The weakness, the intrinsic weakness of strong states is what he's talking about.
Confident nations don't do that. Only nervous nations do things of this kind.
Okay, nervous nations do this thing all the time. Okay, we leave it at that. We leave it at that. The last word has not been said on this debate because the Bharatiya Janata Party has still got a point to make. We've run out of time.